The night was brighter than the stars themselves. The grand ballroom of the Hastings royal estate shimmered with chandeliers that hung like frozen waterfalls of crystal. Cameras flashed, champagne glasses clinked, and soft music floated through the air. The annual New York Royal Hearts Charity Gala had begun, the most anticipated event of the year among America's elite, and at the center of it all was Eleanor Hastings, the woman everyone admired, the billionaire, who built an empire from scratch and donated millions to causes across the globe. She was elegant, poised, and powerful. Her silver gown glittered under the lights. Her diamond jewelry reflected her status, and her every movement commanded respect. People whispered as she passed, "There she is, Mrs. Hastings herself." But behind that flawless smile and graceful walk lived a pain no money could heal. Beneath the diamonds rested a scar, the kind you couldn't see but could feel in every heartbeat. 20 years ago, Eleanor had lost her only daughter, Amelia. It wasn't a tragic accident or some mysterious disappearance. It was a heartbreak she caused herself. You see, Amelia had fallen in love with a young man named David Johnson. Kind, honest, hard-working, and black. Eleanor, consumed by pride and social expectations, couldn't accept that relationship. "You don't understand, Mother," Amelia had cried that night. "I love him. I don't care what the world thinks." But Eleanor, blinded by arrogance and fear of what people would say, had shouted words she would never forget. "If you walk out that door, Amelia, don't ever come back." And Amelia had walked away forever. For years, Eleanor had tried to find her, sending investigators, making calls, praying silently at night. But Amelia had vanished. All that remained was a single silver locket Eleanor had given her on her 16th birthday, a small, heart-shaped necklace engraved with the letter A. She often stared at old photos of her daughter, her fingers tracing that locket in the picture, whispering, "Where are you, my darling girl?" Now at 73, Eleanor had everything: wealth, fame, success, but no one to share it with. Her mansion was filled with art and luxury, yet it echoed with silence. Her name appeared on magazine covers, but her heart remained broken. That night, as the guests filled the room, Eleanor forced herself to smile. She welcomed ambassadors, shook hands with celebrities, and posed for photos. The gala was meant to raise funds for orphaned children, a cause close to her heart because, in truth, she felt she was the one who had orphaned herself. But fate had a strange way of writing stories. Sometimes, life waits for the perfect moment to return what you thought was lost forever. As the orchestra began to play, a voice announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our special guests tonight, the Harmony Youth Choir from Brooklyn." A group of teenagers entered the stage, dressed in simple white attire. Their voices rose in harmony, pure and angelic, filling the vast ballroom with warmth and innocence. The crowd watched, touched by their performance. But among the group stood one girl who instantly caught Eleanor's eye. She was young, about 16, with warm brown skin and soulful eyes that seemed far older than her age. Her curls framed her face beautifully, and there was something about her and something familiar. Then Eleanor noticed it. The necklace. It hung delicately around the girl's neck, a small silver locket, heart-shaped, glinting under the chandeliers. Eleanor's breath caught in her throat. She blinked, thinking her mind was playing tricks. But no, it was the exact same one, the same design, the same engraving, the letter A. Her heart began to pound. Her body froze. Her fingers trembled as the glass of champagne in her hand slipped and shattered onto the marble floor. The music faltered, heads turned, but Eleanor didn't care. Her gaze was locked on that girl, the one wearing her daughter's necklace. Whispers rippled through the guests. "What happened? Is she all right?" "Mrs. Hastings looks pale." But Eleanor couldn't speak. Her lips parted and a single word escaped, barely audible. "Amelia." She took a shaky step forward, her vision blurring with tears. The girl on the stage looked up, confused but curious, as if sensing the strange connection. In that moment, time stood still. The billionaire who ruled boardrooms, who conquered empires, who was feared and admired by millions, stood trembling, fragile and broken, because that necklace wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was the ghost of her past, the bridge between a mistake and a miracle, And as the choir continued to sing, Eleanor Hastings realized something deep inside her soul. This night wasn't just another gala. This night was the beginning of a story that Destiny had been writing for 2 decades, a story that would soon change her life forever. The music still echoed softly through the grand hall as the young choir finished their final note. Applause filled the room, but Eleanor Hastings barely heard it. Her world had gone silent. Her eyes remained locked on one person, the girl with the silver locket. The girl smiled shyly, bowing with her choir group. She looked humble, innocent, and completely unaware that her very existence had just shaken the heart of a billionaire. Eleanor's hands trembled. She gripped the edge of a nearby table, trying to steady her breath. The image of that small heart-shaped necklace, engraved with the letter A, was burned into her mind. It wasn't just a similar piece of jewelry, no. Eleanor knew that locket. Every curve, every detail, the tiny scratch near the clasp. She remembered them all. It was hers. The same necklace she had given to her daughter, Amelia, decades ago on her 16th birthday. Her mind began to spin with questions. How could that girl have it? Was it a coincidence? Or could it possibly mean— Her heart dared not finish the thought. As the applause faded and the audience began mingling again, Eleanor couldn't take her eyes off the girl. She watched her from afar, the way she laughed with her friends, the warmth in her eyes, the kindness in her smile. There was something in her presence that felt familiar. She had Amelia's grace. The same way of tilting her head when she listened. The same gentle spark in her eyes that used to melt Eleanor's heart when Amelia was a little girl. Eleanor's assistant, noticing her pale face, rushed over. "Ma'am, are you all right? Should I get you some water?" But Eleanor didn't respond. She simply whispered, "Find out who that girl is." Within minutes, the assistant returned. "Her name is Maya Johnson," he said. "She's 16. She's with the Harmony Youth Choir. They were invited to perform by the event coordinator. Lives in Brooklyn with her guardian." "Johnson," Eleanor repeated softly. Her breath caught again. Her daughter's last name had become Johnson after she married David, the man Eleanor had forbidden her to see. It couldn't be, could it? The room began spinning again. She needed to speak to the girl, to see that necklace up close, to know. When the event ended, Eleanor waited near the exit. Guests passed by, shaking her hand, thanking her for hosting such a beautiful night, but she barely noticed them. Her eyes scanned the crowd, desperate, restless, until she saw her. Maya. The young girl walked toward the door, holding a small bag, laughing softly with her choir friends. Her energy was warm, her smile genuine. But what drew everyone's attention was her aura. Something radiant, innocent and pure. Eleanor stepped forward, her voice barely a whisper. "Excuse me, young lady." Maya turned. "Yes, ma'am." Eleanor's breath hitched. Up close, she could see the necklace more clearly now. The small silver heart gleamed against her brown skin, just as it had once gleamed against Amelia's? Eleanor's hand trembled as she pointed toward it. "That necklace," she said softly. "Where did you get it?" Maya blinked, surprised. "Oh, this. It belonged to my mom. She said it was her favorite thing in the world. She told me never to lose it." Eleanor felt the air leave her lungs. Her heart began pounding so hard she thought she might faint. "Your mother?" she whispered. "Yes," Maya replied politely, unaware of the storm inside the woman before her. "Her name was Amelia. She passed away when I was 6. The name hit Eleanor like lightning. Amelia, her Amelia, the daughter she had lost. The daughter who had disappeared into the world, taking with her all of Eleanor's love and all of her regret. The crowd around them seemed to disappear. The music faded. The laughter vanished. For Eleanor, only one sound remained, the echo of her own heartbeat. Her knees weakened. The elegant billionaire, the woman known for her strength and authority, suddenly felt powerless. Tears welled in her eyes. She couldn't speak. She just stood there, staring at the young girl, her granddaughter, though her mind could barely process it. Maya stepped forward, worried. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Eleanor couldn't answer. She covered her mouth, her shoulders trembling. The necklace, the name, the age, everything matched. The people nearby began whispering. "Is Mrs. Hastings crying? What's happening?" Did something happen to the girl? But Eleanor didn't care about the eyes watching her. In that moment, she didn't see the cameras or the crowd. All she saw was Amelia's face, reflected in Maya's gentle eyes. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "It's you. Oh my God. It's really you." Maya looked confused. I don't understand." Eleanor took a trembling step forward and whispered, "I knew that necklace. I gave it to your mother. She was my daughter." The girl froze. The room fell into complete silence. The billionaire and the choir girl stood face to face, connected by a single necklace and a story written 20 years apart. And then, in front of everyone, Eleanor's legs gave out, and she fell to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. The guests gasped, rushing toward her, but she didn't care. For the first time in decades, the woman who had everything was crying not out of pride or loss, but out of love. Because in front of her stood the living proof that miracles do happen, even after 20 long, painful years. The ballroom had emptied, but Eleanor Hastings still stood frozen in the corner, her emotions raging like a storm she could no longer control. Her heart, long silent and cold, was now beating so fast it hurt. Around her, people whispered in confusion, wondering what had made the powerful billionaire collapse in tears before a teenage girl. Maya stood nearby, frightened and unsure what to do. She clutched her small purse nervously, her choir friends lingering in the background, whispering among themselves. The entire moment felt unreal, like the world had slowed down. Eleanor's assistant rushed forward, alarmed. "Mrs. Hastings, please sit down. You don't look well." But Eleanor waved him away. Her trembling eyes stayed locked on Maya. "No," she said weakly. "I need to speak to her." "Just her." The assistant hesitated, then nodded and guided the others out of the room until only the two of them remained, the billionaire and the girl, standing under the fading glow of the chandeliers. Eleanor took a deep breath, her hands shaking as she tried to compose herself. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "That necklace, where did your mother get it?" Maya hesitated, sensing the deep emotion behind the question. "It was hers," she said softly. "She wore it every day. She said it was from someone she loved deeply, someone she lost." Eleanor's lips trembled. "And what was your mother's name?" Maya looked down at the floor. "Amelia Johnson." The name broke Eleanor. She gasped, covering her mouth as tears streamed freely down her wrinkled cheeks. Her knees gave out again, and she sank slowly to the floor, sobbing. Maya, startled, rushed forward to help. "Ma'am, please, are you okay?" Eleanor took the girl's hands, gripping them tightly. Her tears fell onto Maya's skin as she whispered, "Amelia. My daughter's name was Amelia Hastings, before she became Amelia Johnson. She was my only child." Maya's eyes widened, confusion spreading across her face. "Wait, what?" Eleanor nodded, her voice trembling. "She was my daughter. My beautiful, stubborn, kind-hearted girl. I lost her many years ago because I made the worst mistake of my life." For a moment, the room was completely silent. Only the faint hum of the air conditioner filled the space as Maya tried to understand, the words echoing in her ears. You're saying," she began slowly, "you're my grandmother?" Eleanor nodded, her tears flowing harder now. "Oh, yes, sweetheart. I'm your grandmother." Maya's heart pounded in her chest. She stepped back, overwhelmed. "But that's not possible. My mom said her family didn't want her anymore. That they—" Eleanor interrupted, her voice breaking. "That I turned her away." Maya fell silent. Eleanor took a deep breath, her words trembling but honest. "I was cruel," she said softly. "Your mother fell in love with a good man, but I couldn't see beyond my pride. I cared too much about reputation, about what society would think, about the color of his skin. So I told her if she married him, she would no longer be my daughter." Her voice cracked with guilt. "And she left that night. She walked out of this very house and never came back. I searched for her for years, but I never found her. I didn't even know she had a child. Until tonight." Maya's eyes filled with tears. She told me she had a mother once," she whispered. "She said she was kind but lost her way. She said if I ever met her, I'd know because she'd cry the moment she saw this necklace." Eleanor broke down again, sobbing harder. "Oh, Amelia, you knew. You knew I would." Without thinking, Eleanor reached out and pulled Maya into her arms. At first, Maya froze, unsure how to react, but then, slowly, she felt something powerful in that embrace. The warmth, the trembling, the ache of years of regret. Eleanor whispered through her tears, "I'm so sorry, my child. I'm sorry for what I did to your mother. I'm sorry for every night I didn't hold her, for every morning I woke up wishing I could turn back time. You are the miracle I never deserved, but was blessed to find." Maya's own tears began to fall. "I wish she could see you," she whispered softly. "She missed you every day." Eleanor closed her eyes, her hands still clutching Maya as if afraid to let go. "She can see us," she said with trembling faith. "She sent you to me. I know she did." They stayed like that for what felt like forever, a billionaire and a girl, bound not by blood alone, but by loss, forgiveness, and love. In that moment, the marble floors, the golden chandeliers, the luxury around them, none of it mattered. The only thing that mattered was the heartbeat of two souls, finding their way back to each other. When Eleanor finally looked into Maya's tear-streaked face, she smiled through her pain. "You look just like her," she whispered. "Her smile, her eyes, even the way you hold yourself. My sweet Amelia lives in you." Maya's lips trembled as she whispered back, "Then maybe this was meant to happen." Eleanor nodded, brushing a tear from Maya's cheek. "No, darling, this was meant to happen." For the first time in 20 years, Eleanor Hastings, the woman who had everything money could buy, realized she had finally found what truly mattered. Not wealth, not power, but family. The mansion was quiet that night. The lights of the city glowed faintly through the tall windows, and the ticking of an antique clock echoed softly through the sitting room. Eleanor Hastings sat beside Maya on a velvet sofa, her eyes red from hours of crying. Between them sat the silver locket, the one that had changed everything. Eleanor gently turned it over in her hands, her fingertips tracing the familiar engraving. The letter A, she whispered. "I gave this to your mother on her 16th birthday. She was so happy that day. She promised she'd wear it forever." Maya smiled faintly. "She did," she said quietly. "She wore it every single day, even when times got hard." Eleanor looked at her granddaughter, really looked at her. The resemblance was undeniable. The shape of her eyes, the curve of her smile, the way her nose scrunched when she spoke, all of it reminded Eleanor of Amelia. It was as if the daughter she had lost had returned in a different form, carrying the same spirit, the same gentleness, and the same strength. "I need to know everything," Eleanor said softly. "Please tell me about your mother. Tell me about her life after she left." Maya nodded slowly, her fingers playing with the chain around her neck. "Mom didn't talk much about the past. I think it hurt her. But she always told me one thing, that she left home because her heart told her to follow love, even when the world said it was wrong." Eleanor's heart twisted. She remembered that night clearly, the shouting, the tears, the anger. Amelia had begged her to understand, but Eleanor's pride had been stronger than her love. "So I thought I was protecting her," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I thought people would judge her, judge our family. I was so blind." Maya continued, her tone soft but steady. "Mom said she met my dad, David Johnson, when she was in college. He was studying architecture. She said he was funny, patient, and the kind of man who saw beauty in everything, even in the places most people ignored." Eleanor smiled faintly through her tears. "That sounds like the kind of man Amelia would love." "They got married in a small church," Maya said, her eyes glistening. "No big ceremony, no guests from her side. She told me she cried that day, not because she was sad, but because she wished you were there. She said she always dreamed you'd walk her down the aisle." Eleanor pressed a trembling hand to her lips. The image broke her heart. Her beautiful daughter, walking down a church aisle alone, holding on to hope that her mother might still come. "I was too proud," Eleanor said, shaking her head. "I thought I was saving her from pain, but I only caused it." Maya's voice grew softer. "Mom and Dad had a small apartment in Brooklyn. They didn't have much, but she always said they had love, and that was enough. When I was born, she said I was her miracle. She used to hum to me every night, the same song she said her mother used to sing when she was little." Eleanor's eyes widened. "You are my sunshine," she whispered. Maya smiled faintly. Yes. How did you know? Tears spilled from Eleanor's eyes. Because I used to sing that to Amelia every night before bed. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The silence between them was heavy, filled with love, loss, and understanding. Maya continued, her voice breaking slightly. When I was 6, my dad, he died in a car accident. Mom was heartbroken. After that, she got sick. She tried to stay strong for me, but she just kept getting weaker. Before she passed, she gave me this locket. She said, "When you meet the woman in this picture, tell her I forgave her long ago." Eleanor gasped. Picture? Maya opened the locket and showed her. Inside were 2 tiny photographs, one of a young Amelia, smiling brightly, and the other of Eleanor, holding her daughter as a baby. I didn't know who you were, Maya said softly, but I always felt that one day this necklace would lead me to you. Eleanor's tears flowed freely now. She took Maya's hands in hers and said, "Your mother. She was the light of my life. And I was the one who dimmed it. I've lived all these years with regret, praying for one more chance. And here you are, the answer to that prayer." Maya wiped her grandmother's tears gently. "She forgave you, Grandma. She really did. She told me that people make mistakes when they're scared. She said love always finds a way back." Eleanor nodded slowly, her chest heaving with emotion. And she was right. Love found its way back to me, through you. The clock ticked softly as Eleanor pulled Maya into her arms once again. The pain of 20 years began to melt, replaced by something purer, forgiveness. That night, Eleanor didn't sleep. She sat by the window, holding the locket against her heart. For the first time in decades, she whispered her daughter's name not in sorrow but in peace. "Thank you, Amelia," she said softly, "for sending her home to me." The next morning, sunlight spilled through the tall windows of Eleanor Hastings' mansion. The golden rays lit up the elegant paintings and crystal vases, but what truly stood out was the small silver locket, lying between 2 cups of untouched tea. It glistened softly and fragile yet powerful. Eleanor and Maya sat together at the breakfast table, still trying to absorb everything that had happened the night before. Both had barely slept. For Eleanor, the night had been filled with memories of her daughter, Amelia's laughter, her stubborn eyes, the way she used to twirl around the room in her ballet shoes. And for Maya, it had been a night of disbelief, realizing that the woman the world called the Ice Queen of Wall Street was her grandmother. Now, in the morning light, both sat quietly, the air heavy with unspoken emotions. Eleanor finally broke the silence. May I see it again?" she asked softly. Maya nodded and carefully unclasped the silver chain from her neck. The locket dangled between her fingers as she handed it over. Eleanor's hands trembled as she took it, her eyes already glistening. She turned the tiny heart-shaped piece over in her fingers, her thumb tracing the faint scratches that time had left behind. "I remember when I bought this," she said, her voice cracking with nostalgia. "It wasn't very expensive, but Amelia thought it was the most beautiful thing in the world. She wore it every single day. Even when I scolded her, she'd hold it like it gave her strength." Maya smiled softly. She said it reminded her of home. Those words pierced Eleanor's heart like a blade. Home, the very thing she had taken from her daughter. She took a deep breath and carefully pressed the small latch on the E side of the locket. It opened with a faint click, a sound Eleanor hadn't heard in over 2 decades. Inside were 2 tiny faded photographs. One of them showed Amelia as a teenager, smiling brightly, her hair tied up in a ponytail. The other was of Eleanor herself, a much younger version, holding baby Amelia in her arms, both laughing. Eleanor's lips trembled. She kept this picture of me?" Maya nodded. "She told me that no matter what happened, you were still her mother. She said love doesn't stop, even when people do." Eleanor's tears fell freely. She gently ran her fingertip over the photo, tracing her daughter's face. "I thought she hated me," she whispered. "I thought I had lost her forever. But even after everything I did, she kept my picture close to her heart." Maya placed a gentle hand over Eleanor's. "She forgave you a long time ago. She told me one day, my mother will see this locket again, and when she does, she'll know I never stopped loving her." That was it. Eleanor couldn't hold back anymore. Her body trembled as sobs broke free. She placed the locket down and pulled Maya into her arms, clutching her as tightly as she could, as if letting go would mean losing her all over again. Through tears, she whispered, "Thank you. Thank you for finding me. Thank you for bringing her back to me." Maya hugged her back, tears streaming down her own cheeks. "I think she wanted this, Grandma. I think she wanted us to find each other." Eleanor smiled through her tears, brushing Maya's hair back gently. "You even have her curls," she said softly. "And her smile." My goodness, that same smile. For the first time in years, Eleanor's heart felt warm. She had spent so long living in guilt, convincing herself she didn't deserve forgiveness. But now, holding her granddaughter, the living proof of her daughter's love, she realized that love had never left her. It had simply been waiting for the right moment to return. Eleanor held the locket to her chest and whispered, "This little heart carried more love than I ever could imagine. It held her forgiveness, and it brought me my family back." Maya smiled. "Mom always said this necklace wasn't just jewelry. She said it was a promise that love would always find its way home." Eleanor kissed the locket gently, her eyes filled with gratitude, and she was right. They sat together for a while, watching the sunlight dance on the walls. For once, Eleanor didn't think about her business, her empire, or her image. She thought only about the girl sitting beside her, the granddaughter she never knew she had, and the daughter she wished she could tell one last time, "I'm sorry." Later that day, Eleanor called her staff and gave an unusual order. "I want this locket cleaned and preserved," she said. "Not because it's valuable, but because it's sacred. It's the heart of our family." When the staff left, Eleanor turned back to Maya and smiled. "From now on, this house isn't just a mansion. It's a home again, and I want you to live here with me, Maya. I don't want to lose you too." Maya's eyes widened, tears welling up. "Really?" Eleanor nodded. "Really. You're my granddaughter, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life making up for what I lost." Maya threw her arms around her grandmother once more. The silver locket, the tiny heart that had survived heartbreak, time and distance hung between them, glinting softly in the morning light. It wasn't just a necklace anymore. It was forgiveness. It was family. It was love, coming full circle. That afternoon, the mansion was unusually quiet. The ticking of the golden clock echoed through the grand hall, mingling with the faint sound of wind brushing past the old oak trees outside. Eleanor sat by the fireplace, her gaze fixed on the dancing flames. Across from her sat Maya, still wearing the same simple dress from the day before, her presence gentle yet strong, a living reflection of everything Eleanor had lost and just rediscovered. For a long while, neither spoke. The silence wasn't awkward. It was heavy, full of memories trying to rise to the surface. Finally, Eleanor took a deep breath and said softly, "There's something I need to tell you about what really happened between me and your mother." Maya nodded, her eyes full of quiet curiosity. Eleanor's fingers trembled as she held her teacup. "I wasn't always this cold," she began, her voice fragile. "When Amelia was born, she was my entire world. My husband Richard and I were young, ambitious, and proud. We built our fortune from nothing. Every dollar was earned with sleepless nights and sacrifices. I thought I was doing it all for her, but in reality, I was building walls, not a home." She paused, her eyes distant. "When Amelia turned 16, she started dating a young man named David. He was bright, kind, but he didn't come from money. I didn't approve. I told her he wasn't good enough, that he couldn't give her the life she deserved. But Amelia didn't care. She loved him. She said love mattered more than status." Eleanor's lips quivered as she recalled the moment that changed everything. "One night we had a terrible fight. I told her if she walked out that door with him, she would no longer be my daughter." Tears welled in her eyes. "And she did. She looked at me and said, 'I hope one day you understand what love really means.' Then she left." Maya's eyes shimmered. "She told me that story, but she never said your name. She just said she lost someone she loved because of pride." Eleanor nodded slowly, guilt weighing on every breath. "For years I told myself she'd come back. I kept the door open, the lights on, but she never did. When I finally tried to find her, it was too late. The letters I sent, they came back unopened. Then one day, a lawyer came to my office and told me she had passed away in a car accident. I wanted to die that day too. Her voice broke completely. I never got to say I was sorry. I never got to hold her hand again. And I told myself I didn't deserve to cry. I just threw myself into work, into business, into anything that could help me forget. But I never did, not for a single day. Maya's tears began to fall silently. She didn't hate you, Grandma, she said softly. She always said people make mistakes when they're scared. She said you weren't bad. You were just afraid of losing control. But she also said she wished you'd seen how happy she was. Even when we had nothing. Eleanor looked up, her eyes red. Nothing? Maya nodded. We lived in a small apartment in a poor neighborhood. Some nights we didn't have enough to eat. Mom worked 3 jobs just to keep me in school. She always wore that locket. She said it reminded her that love was stronger than pride. And every night before bed, she'd kiss it and whisper, "Good night, Mom." Eleanor's body trembled as sobs escaped her again. She covered her face with her hands, whispering through tears, "What have I done? I had everything, money, power, comfort, and I let go of the only thing that truly mattered." Maya moved closer, placing her hand gently over her grandmother's. "You can't change the past, Grandma, but you can honor it. You can love me the way she wished you'd loved her. That's how you make it right." Eleanor looked up slowly. For the first time in years, her face softened, not with wealth or pride, but with humility. "You're right, my dear," she whispered. "I can't undo the years I lost, but I can love you not out of guilt but out of gratitude, because you're her gift to me." Maya smiled through her tears. She'd like that. She used to say that love doesn't die, it just finds a new home. Eleanor reached across the table and pulled Maya into her arms once more, her tears falling freely onto Maya's shoulder. "Then I'll be that home," she whispered. "For you, for her, for us." The clock struck softly in the background. The fire crackled. And for the first time in decades, Eleanor Hastings, the woman the world saw as cold and unshakable, felt warmth. Not from wealth, but from forgiveness. The pain of the past was still there, but it no longer ruled her. It had finally found peace, through the heart of a girl wearing a simple silver locket. And as Eleanor held Maya close, she realized something profound. Money could build empires, but only love could rebuild hearts. The days that followed were unlike anything Eleanor Hastings had experienced in decades. Her mansion, once silent and echoing with emptiness, now carried the sound of laughter, gentle, warm, and healing. It was the sound of Maya humming to herself in the kitchen, of footsteps running down marble floors that had long forgotten joy. Eleanor watched her granddaughter move through the house like sunlight, pouring into dark corners. She realized that for the first time, her grand estate actually felt alive. Maya wasn't used to the world of luxury. She still woke up early, helped the staff, and ate breakfast in the servants' kitchen, until Eleanor insisted she sit at the main dining table. The first time she did, she looked uncomfortable. The room was enormous. The chandelier glittered like 1,000 diamonds, and the silverware looked more expensive than her old apartment. You don't have to do that, Grandma," Maya said shyly. "I'm fine eating with the others." Eleanor chuckled gently. "You're family, my dear. You belong at this table. You've always belonged." Those words made Maya's eyes glisten. She sat down, still unsure. But when Eleanor reached across and poured her tea with a trembling hand, Maya smiled, a soft, grateful smile that filled the billionaire's heart with peace. As days passed, Eleanor started sharing stories, not about her businesses, but about her life. About how she met her husband Richard at a charity ball, about how she and Amelia used to plant tulips in the garden every spring. And in return, Maya told her about her mother's struggles, working late shifts, saving every penny and never losing faith. One afternoon, Eleanor took Maya into the grand library, where thousands of books lined the shelves. She pulled down an old photo album, dusting it gently. Inside were pictures of Amelia as a baby, her first birthday, her first piano recital, her graduation. Maya's hands shook as she turned the pages. "I've never seen these before," she whispered. Eleanor smiled sadly. "They've been waiting for you." They spent hours flipping through the album, laughing and crying, filling the air with stories that stitched together 2 generations, separated by pride and pain. Then one evening a visitor arrived, Eleanor's lawyer. Mr. Whitmore. He had known Eleanor for 40 years, and his expression was one of shock when he saw Maya sitting beside her. "Mrs. Hastings," he said, clearing his throat, "forgive me. But this young woman?" Eleanor smiled with pride. "This is my granddaughter, Maya." The lawyer blinked. "So your granddaughter?" "Yes," Eleanor said firmly, "and I want every legal document updated. She is my family, my heir, my heart." Maya gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Grandma, you don't have to—" Eleanor interrupted softly. "No, dear, I want to. Money can't replace what we lost, but it can build something better. You'll use it to live, to learn, to help others, not the way I did, but the way your mother would have wanted." Tears filled Maya's eyes. "I don't care about money, Grandma. I just wanted to know you." Eleanor reached across the table, taking Maya's hands in hers. "And now you do. But if there's one thing I've learned," she said, voice trembling, "it's that love without action means nothing. So let's act. Let's do something for her, for Amelia." That night, they sat together planning something that would honor Amelia's memory, a foundation to help struggling single mothers. Maya suggested they name it the Amelia Heart Foundation, after her mother's belief that love could heal anything. Eleanor agreed immediately. When the foundation was announced to the public, news outlets flooded the story. "Billionaire heiress reunites with granddaughter. After years of estrangement," read one headline. Another said, "The Ice Queen melts Eleanor Hastings. Honors late daughter with emotional family charity." For once, Eleanor didn't care about the headlines. What mattered was seeing Maya on stage beside her, proudly wearing the silver locket, now cleaned and shining under the lights. As Eleanor gave her speech, her voice broke, but she didn't hide it. "I once believed that success meant having everything money could buy," she said. "But true success is having someone to share it with. I lost my daughter to my pride, but I've been given a second chance through my granddaughter. This," she gestured to Maya, "is my greatest fortune." The audience stood in applause. Cameras flashed, tears glistened, and in that moment, Eleanor felt lighter than she had in years. Later that evening, back at home, Maya wrapped her arms around her grandmother and whispered, "Mom would be proud of you." Eleanor smiled, tears filling her eyes. "No, my dear, I'm proud of her. She sent you to me. Her heart found its way home." As the sun set behind the mansion, Eleanor looked out over the gardens where tulips were starting to bloom again, the same kind her daughter had once loved. She turned to Maya and said softly, "Tomorrow we'll plant new ones together." Maya smiled. "A new beginning." Eleanor nodded, her voice trembling with warmth. "Yes, my love, a new beginning for both of us." And for the first time in decades, Eleanor Hastings didn't feel like a billionaire. She felt like something far richer, a grandmother, finally at peace, finally home. The following spring arrived like a whisper of hope. The cold grey skies that had once hung over Eleanor's mansion slowly gave way to golden light and blooming colours. Tulips, Amelia's favourite, now painted the gardens in every shade, imaginable: pink, yellow, white and red. Eleanor stood by the window, watching Maya kneel among the flowers, planting new bulbs with gentle hands. She smiled, her heart swelling with pride. That garden had once been a symbol of loneliness. Now it was alive again, breathing, growing, healing. Maya looked up, brushing soil from her hands. "You should come help me, Grandma," she called playfully. Eleanor chuckled softly. "I haven't planted anything in decades," she said, walking toward her. "Then it's time to start again," Maya replied, handing her a small shovel. Eleanor took it with trembling hands, kneeling beside her granddaughter. The two began planting together, one bulb at a time. As they worked, Eleanor glanced at the silver locket resting on Maya's neck, sparkling softly in the sunlight. She smiled faintly. "That little necklace brought us together," she said. "Your mother must be smiling from heaven." Maya nodded. "I feel her every day, especially here. It's like she's in the wind, in the flowers, in every piece of this garden." Eleanor paused, her voice catching. "You know, when I lost her, I stopped believing in signs, in miracles. I thought the universe had turned its back on me. But you, Maya, you're the miracle I didn't know I needed." Maya looked at her grandmother with tears in her eyes. "And you're the family I thought I'd never have." They sat together quietly. the breeze carrying the scent of tulips through the air. For a moment, everything felt perfect, peaceful, whole. Later that evening, Eleanor and Maya prepared for the first annual fundraiser for the Amelia Hart Foundation. The mansion was filled with laughter, music, and warmth, so different from the cold parties of Eleanor's past. Instead of powerful investors and politicians, the guests were mothers, children, teachers, and volunteers. The walls that once echoed with loneliness now resonated with love. Maya stood by the stage, clutching a small note card in her hand. "I'm nervous," she admitted. Eleanor smiled and squeezed her hand. "You'll do fine, my dear. Just speak from your heart. That's what your mother always did." Maya took a deep breath and stepped onto the stage. Cameras flashed, but she didn't feel afraid. She looked out at the crowd and said softly, "My mom used to say love never dies. It just finds a new home. Tonight, standing here with my grandmother, I finally understand what she meant. This foundation isn't just about helping single mothers. It's about reminding the world that family in any form is sacred." The audience clapped, many wiping away tears. Eleanor joined her on stage, her eyes filled with pride. She took the microphone and spoke next. "There was a time," Eleanor began, "when I believed success meant being strong, being untouchable. But I learned that true strength isn't about power. It's about forgiveness. I lost my daughter because of pride. But by the grace of fate, I found her again through her daughter. That is the greatest gift life has ever given me." The hall went silent as Eleanor's voice trembled with emotion. "If my daughter were here tonight," she said, looking up, "I'd tell her I'm sorry. I'd tell her thank you for sending Maya to me. You've healed a heart I thought could never be whole again." Applause erupted. People stood to their feet, moved to tears. Maya hugged her grandmother tightly on stage, whispering, "She heard you, Grandma." "I know she did." That night, as the guests left and the lights dimmed, Eleanor and Maya walked outside into the garden. The moon shone gently over the tulips, and the air was cool and calm. Eleanor looked up at the stars. "You know," she said softly, "when I was your age, I used to make wishes on stars." I stopped after Amelia left, "but I think I'll make one tonight." Maya smiled. "What will you wish for?" Eleanor took her hand and whispered, "That I have enough time left to love you the way I couldn't love her." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "Sure you already are, Grandma." They stood together, hand in hand, gazing at the sky. The locket glimmered faintly against Maya's chest, as if catching the light of heaven itself. And in that quiet moment, Eleanor felt something, a gentle breeze brushing past her cheek, carrying the faintest scent of tulips. She closed her eyes and smiled. "She's here," she whispered. "Amelia's here." Maya looked up at her, then at the sky, and whispered back, "She never left." The wind danced around them once more, wrapping the two in warmth and peace. Eleanor pulled Maya close, whispering softly, "No more regrets, my dear. Just love, always love." As dawn began to break over the horizon, the tulips swayed in the light, their petals glowing gold. The garden that once symbolized loss now stood as a living memory, a reminder that love, no matter how long it takes, always finds its way home. The billionaire who had once been called the Ice Queen now had a heart full of warmth. And the girl who wore her mother's locket had given that heart a second chance to beat. Together they had rewritten their story. Together they had come full circle.